markets are very, very quiet. Looking at possibly where we're going to go, looking at data out for the week, and trying to predict where the market's going to run for the next couple of days, Stephen.
Of course, we did have a positive opening. We were up by about 1/5% just in those first few minutes when the market traded. And I was chatting to you earlier, you were saying just over 19,000 Rand in value traded today. So a lot of catch up if that market does reopen today. But of course, quite a positive tone set by the US last night.
Yes, even overnight, in terms of the housing data, that's the second set of housing data that's come out in the last week that is really pushing positive momentum into the market, as well as interesting numbers in terms of corporate earnings that are coming out. Really, the market is looking and looking for a good reason to run into positive territory. We've seen our markets with 6 up days, so really quite disappointing for our local investors who probably wanted to take some profit taking this morning, coming off last week, and then in terms of the rest of the week, Stephen.
Just perhaps going through some of the positive news that we have had. You mentioned the US home sales. We've had the earnings season, and I believe that about 80% of the companies that have reported back so far have beaten expectations on the earnings line. So it looks like it has been quite a positive quarter for report backs by US companies.
Yes, even last week I mentioned that it's going to be a toss-up between the macroeconomics and company earnings, and really with the housing data coming out supporting some of the corporate earnings, the positivity, it's really causing markets to move in a positive direction. And if we do, if we do see, we're expecting GDP numbers out of the States for Q2 out at the end of the week. If we do see those numbers come in line, I think the number out is, or expected, 2.5%. If it does come in 2.5% and higher, we're definitely going to see us, with corporate earnings beating expectations, we're going to see us move higher.
Well, another positive trigger was news coming out of the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision yesterday, and just about Basel III. Can you take us through what that is and what the implications are for banks in South Africa?
Stephen, I think what's important about that is, or the news that came out, is that it's going to give us some time for banks to look at their capital ratios, and it's going to allow the market to breathe. If it did, however, come in as expected, closer to the time, it would actually limit our growth as well as international banks. But what is important, they have stretched the dates out, and obviously we would have seen our local banks bouncing off international banks moving higher.
And just looking at the euro as well, 130, the rand 733 at this point. So really, risk appetite back on the table today.
Yes, even you can see it, and unfortunately we have seen our equity markets moving higher this morning, probably led by Anglos and built in our resource counters, and obviously with our banks, definitely equity markets would have been the big play today.
Just looking at some of the levels we've got the JSE's overall index trading at 28,500, so it's come a long way in the past couple of weeks. We have the top 40, 25,400. Are we starting to get near some technical levels that would meet some resistance?
I see technical levels on the toppy, 25,800, and that is our previous high in Q4 2009. If we go through that level, then we could see us go all the way up to the previous high of 26,700, which is our last high in Q1 to 2010, and if we do go beyond that point, we're going to be going up to 27,500 on the top. In terms of the all share, if we do break 26,000, the next key technical level will be 28, and then possibly all the way up to 32,000. So the next couple of days are going to be very interesting in terms of GDP numbers and further corporate numbers, and that could see us going higher.
Just looking at some unemployment numbers out today, we had unemployment easing up marginally from 25.2% in the first quarter of the year to 25.3%. Not a big number. I think 2,000 additional jobs lost. Do you find this surprising, given that we were preparing for the World Cup and there should have been some unemployment created around that?
Yes, Stephen, very disappointed, very surprised at the numbers. One would have expected that we would have seen an increase in job numbers, but on the other side, maybe without looking at the details, we probably saw a lot of contracts coming, ending with the construction, from the construction sector, and that's probably putting a damper on the number, and also the expectation of only possibly 300,000 tourists coming into the country. You know, that our local tourism industry might not have beefed up enough for that, but we will have to see the breakdown of the numbers, but also just disappointing, the numbers moving in the wrong direction, Stephen.